Lesson 6.3, Division of Rational Numbers. The 3 vocabulary words that you need to know in order to identify the terms that you're dividing is divisor, which is the number you're dividing by. It goes here on the outside. Dividend, which is the number that goes on the inside that's being divided by. Okay. And the quotient is the answer that you're going to end up getting. Now, here are the rules to follow when dividing decimals. First, division of decimals. Make a divisor into a whole number by moving it to the back. Again, I will explain more about that in a moment. Move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places. Bring the decimal point up, divide until one place after the required place value, and round if needed. Okay, here are 2 examples that we can try. First, let's do number 1. It says 51 5/10 divided by 25. Well, most of us are not able to divide it that way, so we're going to rewrite it using the little house. So we're going to have 25 into 51.5. First thing we do is bring our decimal point straight up. Now, 25 does not have a decimal, so we don't need to move it anywhere else. So now, let's do our division. We say 25 goes into 51 2 times. 2 times 25 is 50. Subtract, you're left with 1. Bring down the 5. Well, 25 goes into 15 0 times. It doesn't work. So add a 0 next to the 5 and bring it on down. And now 25 goes into 150 6 times. 6 times 25 is 150. Subtract, you're left with 0. Now, look at number 2. Oh, sorry, your quotient here is 2 6/10. On number 2, we're going to rewrite it the same way. So we have 3 1/10 goes into 7 3,254 10,000ths. Now this time, this is not a whole number. So we need to take that divisor and change it into a whole number. So we do that by taking our decimal point and moving it one place to the right. Since I moved the divisor's decimal point one place, I need to do the same thing with the dividend. So move this one place to the right. Now before I divide, what I'm going to do is take my decimal point and bring it straight up to its new spot. Now, take a moment and see if you can get the division done. Okay, so 31 goes into 73 2 times. 2 times 31 is 62. Subtract, you end up with 11. Bring down the 2. 31 goes into 112 3 times. 3 times 31 is 93. Subtract, you're left with 19. Bring down the 5. 3 goes into 195 6 times. 6 times 3 is 186. Subtract, you're left with 9. Now we need to go one place further because we're going to round this problem to the nearest hundredth. So now bring down the 4. 31 goes into 94 3 times. And 3 times 31 is 93. Subtract, you're left with 1. At this point, it's not going to repeat, but we're going to estimate our answer. So since we went 3 places, and I told you I wanted it rounded to the nearest hundredth, the 6 is what's in the hundredths column. So the 6 looks at the 3. The 3 is a small number, so our answer ends up coming out to 2 36 hundredths. If this last number here had been 5 or higher, then we would have made it a 7. Okay, for division of fractions, you have to keep the first fraction, change the division to multiplication, flip the second fraction, and then follow the multiplication rules. Now, if you'll notice, I've highlighted keep, change, flip to try and help you remember the steps. When we are multiplying by the second fraction, when we flip it, it's actually called the multiplicative inverse, which we did in Chapter 5. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So we're going to take 3/8 and we're going to keep it. We're going to change the division to multiplication. We're going to flip the second fraction. And now follow your multiplication rules. When we did multiplication, the first thing we did was look to cancel so that we could simplify before we multiply across. Well, what goes into 8 and 16? The answer is 8. So let's divide them both by 8. So 8 goes into 8 once, 8 goes into 16 twice. There is no other numerator or denominator that can be canceled, so we're going to multiply going straight across. 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 7 is 7, and your answer is 6/7. Okay, now try number 4 on your own. Remember, you need to make sure that you change the mixed number into an improper fraction and change the whole number into a fraction as well before you attempt to solve it. Okay, so 4 7/8 you change to an improper fraction by doing 4 times 8 plus 7. Well, 4 times 8 is 32, plus 7 is 39/8. Actually, before we do any changing here, change the -3 into a fraction by putting it over 1. So now I can continue doing keep, change, flip. So I keep the first fraction, I change the division to multiplication, and I flip over the 3 to 1/3. Notice, bring the negative sign with you. It doesn't matter if it goes with the numerator, the denominator, or stands in the middle. Now, let's look and see if there's any canceling. You can cancel the 3 and the 39. So 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 39 13 times. Since there's no other canceling, let's multiply going across. 13 times -1 is -13. 8 times 1 is 8. Now, if we asked you to leave it as an improper fraction, your answer would be finished. But let's change it into a mixed number so that we can review that as well. We do that by dividing 8 into -13. Well, we know a negative divided by a positive is a negative. Let's leave the negative down. And then 8 goes into 13 one time with 5 left over. Well, 5 is your numerator and 8 is your denominator. So your final answer is -1 5/8. Notice again, when we do our canceling, all of our simplifying is done before we get to the end. Okay, write down any questions you have and we'll go over it in class tomorrow. Have a great day.